People talk about burnout as if it's always about exhaustion, too many hours, too much pressure, too little rest. But the kind of burnout that shows up before retirement is usually something else entirely. Most people I speak to aren't collapsing, they're not overwhelmed, they're not failing at their jobs. They're still functioning, still competent, still doing what's expected of them. Yet work starts to feel strangely heavier. Not harder in a practical sense, heavier in a psychological one. And that's where the confusion starts. Because if you're not exhausted and you're not stressed and your workload hasn't increased, then what exactly is wrong? This type of burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing something long after it stopped feeding that same part of you. Early in your career, work tends to give you things beyond money: momentum, identity, progress, a sense of building something. Even when it's difficult, it still feels purposeful. But as retirement moves from a vague future idea into something more real, that relationship starts to change. You begin to see the end of the road, not dramatically, just quietly. And once you can see the end, your tolerance for certain things drops. Meetings that once felt routine now feel draining. Processes you accepted without question start to feel unnecessary. Small frustrations take up more mental space than they used to. Nothing has changed on paper, but internally, the contract has shifted. And this is where people mislabel what's happening. They call it burnout and assume that you need rest or motivation or a new role maybe. But often it's not tiredness, it's disengagement. Your brain's started to detach before your circumstances have caught up with it. Part of you is already living on the other side of work. Even if you're still turning up each day, you're somewhere else. And that gap is uncomfortable because you're still expected to care in the same way, to invest emotionally in outcomes that no longer feel personal for you. You haven't stopped being capable, you've stopped being fully invested. And that's a very different thing. This kind of burnout tends to hit people who have done things properly, people who have planned, people who stayed the course, people who didn't quit impulsively. Ironically, the more responsible you are, the longer you stay in this in-between phase. You're not done, but you're no longer all in. And that creates a constant low-level friction. You can't fully relax because you're still working. You can't fully engage because you're already thinking beyond it. So work starts to feel like it's taking more than it actually gives. Not because it's harder, but because it's out of sync with where you are mentally. This is why breaks don't fix it. Holidays help for a week or two, but that feeling quickly returns. Because the issue isn't energy, it's your alignment. You're spending time and attention on something your mind has already started to move beyond. That doesn't mean you should rush into retirement, and it doesn't mean that something's wrong with your plans. It means you're in the transition phase, a phase where the old structure still exists, but no longer fits quite right. And understanding that difference matters, because once you see this isn't exhaustion and stop trying to solve it like it is, you stop beating yourself up for feeling flat. You stop wondering why you can't just push through this like you used to. And instead you recognise what this really is. It's not burnout from doing too much, but the slow, quiet loosening of attachment that often happens before a chapter ends.